What if fairies are real and only some people can see or contact them? Throughout history, various cultures around the world have held beliefs in fairies, often portraying them as supernatural beings with magical abilities. These beliefs are often deeply rooted in folklore and mythology. Here are a few examples of stories and beliefs about fairies from different ancient cultures. In Celtic mythology, fairies were known as the She. They were believed to be a race of otherworldly beings who inhabited mounds, hills, and other natural features of the landscape. They were often depicted as beautiful, ethereal creatures with powers over nature and the ability to enchant humans. According to Celtic folklore, fairies were said to be capable of either bestowing blessings or causing mischief, depending on how they were treated by humans. Offerings of food and drink were often left out for them to ensure their favor. In Norse mythology, fairies were known as the elves or Alfur. They were believed to be closely connected to nature and were often depicted as forest-dwelling beings with pointed ears and magical abilities. Elves were sometimes associated with fertility and were believed to be guardians of the natural world. They were said to inhabit hidden realms within forests and mountains. In Irish folklore, fairies were often referred to as the Aoz or Tuatha De Danann. They were believed to be ancient, supernatural beings who inhabited the land long before humans arrived. Fairies were thought to live in an invisible realm that existed alongside the human world. They were often associated with specific natural features such as fairy mounds or rings, and it was believed that disturbing these places could incur their wrath. In English folklore, fairies were often depicted as small, winged creatures with magical powers. They were believed to live in a realm called fairy or fairyland, which was accessible through mystical portals or hidden entrances in the natural landscape. Fairies were thought to be mischievous beings who enjoyed playing tricks on humans. They were often blamed for unexplained phenomena such as lost items or mysterious disappearances. The Fairy Ointment, Irish folklore. This is a traditional Irish folktale about a young man named Jack who encounters fairies in the woods. One evening, Jack is out hunting when he stumbles upon a group of fairies dancing in a clearing. Entranced by their beauty and grace, Jack watches from the shadows until the fairies notice him. Surprised but curious, the fairies invite Jack to join their dance. He hesitates at first, but the music is so enchanting that he cannot resist. For hours, Jack dances with the fairies until he is completely exhausted. As dawn approaches, the fairies bid Jack farewell and offer him a small jar of ointment as a token of their friendship. They warn him never to open it until he is in dire need. Jack thanks them and hurries home. In the days that follow, Jack faces many challenges, but he remembers the fairies, warning and refrains from using the ointment. Eventually, he finds himself in a life-threatening situation and decides to open the jar. To his amazement, the ointment heals his wounds instantly and saves his life. From that day forward, Jack is grateful to the fairies for their gift. Whenever he ventures into the woods, he keeps a lookout for them, hoping to catch another glimpse of their magical dance. The Elf Maiden, Scandinavian folklore. In Scandinavian folklore, there are many stories about elves, including one about an elf maiden who falls in love with a human man. According to the tale, A young hunter named Eric wanders into the forest one day and encounters a beautiful maiden with pointed ears and shimmering silver hair. The maiden reveals herself to be an elf and explains that she has watched over Eric since he was a child. Over time, Eric and the elf maiden fall deeply in love and spend many happy days together in the forest. However, their happiness is short-lived when Eric's family discovers his relationship with the elf maiden. They disapprove of their union and forbid Eric from seeing her again. Heartbroken, Eric begs the elf maiden to run away with him, but she knows that their worlds are too different. In the end, Eric is forced to leave the forest and return to his village, while the elf maiden remains behind, grieving for her lost love. Despite the distance between them, Eric never forgets the elf maiden and cherishes the memories of their time together in the enchanted forest. Aluxab, one entity in Maya folklore that bears some similarities to fairies, is the Alux. Aluxab are believed to be small, mischievous spirits that dwell in the forests, caves, and fields. They are said to be guardians of nature and possess magical powers. Similar to fairies, Aluxab can be both helpful and troublesome to humans depending on how they are treated. It is said that offering gifts or respecting their territories can appease them, while disrespect or disregard may lead to their pranks or curses. Ancient Egyptians revered a multitude of deities associated with nature, such as Hathor, the goddess of love, music, and fertility, and Bees, a protective deity associated with childbirth, home, and family. While these deities were not considered fairies in the traditional sense, they were believed to possess magical powers and could influence human affairs. Egyptians often invoked these deities for protection, guidance, and blessings in their daily lives. Fairies are seen as relics of pagan beliefs that have no place in Christian theology. While some individuals may still embrace the folklore surrounding fairies, most Christians do not consider them part of their religious worldview. Two main words in Romanian mythology refer to fairies. The first is Zana, with the plural Zane. The second is Yili, which appears only in the plural. Zani designate the good fairies who bestow gifts upon mortals. Yili, by contrast, are fairies both feared and revered. Their name is always in the plural because there are at least 3 of them in most stories. People in certain Romanian areas call eel bad fairies. Others do not think of them as particularly good or bad, just mischievous and changing. They can be ruthless though, and it is never a good idea to come upon them while they are dancing their mad dance. Think Dionysian bacchantes. Just as it is never a good idea to refuse their invitation to dance. Nordic beliefs about fairies, often referred to as huldras or hidden folk, vary across different regions and time periods. In Scandinavian folklore, these beings were often depicted as supernatural creatures living in forests, mountains, or secluded areas. Here are some common beliefs about fairies among Nordic people. Fairies were believed to be humanoid in form, often described as beautiful or alluring, with long hair and sometimes tails. However, they were thought to have hidden features, such as the back of their heads being hollow or having a cow's tail, which they would conceal to appear human. Fairies were thought to live in underground dwellings, such as mounds or hills. These places were considered entrances to their hidden worlds, and humans were warned not to disturb them to avoid their wrath. Fairies were believed to have the ability to interact with humans, sometimes appearing to travelers or even marrying them. However, they were also known to be mischievous or even malevolent towards humans who crossed them or violated their territories. Fairies were often associated with both blessings and curses. They could offer gifts or assistance to humans who pleased them, but they were also known to play tricks or inflict harm on those who offended them. Nordic folklore often tied fairies to specific seasons or rituals, such as midsummer celebrations or harvest festivals. Offerings or rituals were sometimes performed to appease the fairies and ensure good fortune. What if there isn't any good reason to fear fairies? What if they are kind to those who are kind to them? I appreciate you watching my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching The What If.